Hey guys, NoZoupForYou here, and wow, what a doozy of a week. The playtest was out, lots of players played it. Players played the new iteration of CVs in testing, and a lot of you have had a lot of things to say. Some of them just kind of make me scratch my head right now. I just can't fathom some of the things that I've seen on various forums, whether it be World of Warships forum or the various Facebook forums out there or even Reddit. Just some crazy stuff out there. It's like the end of World of Warships is upon us. Once again, what is this, like the 10th time that supposedly something is happening that's going to kill the game? So first off, people are saying CVs are overpowered. Yeah, I'm a little confused with that because that is not the general feeling that I got playing CVs. Not by a long shot. Yet tons of people right now are saying that CVs are overpowered and they're going to ruin the game because players are going to have to spec their ships totally for AA to combat these horrible CVs that are out there that are just going to run amok and make things miserable for every single player out there. I don't know if I was playing the same game you all were playing, but for me at least, it seemed like I had to put in an awful lot of work to get decent damage in carriers. It wasn't a given doing a lot of damage, especially if you're a tier 8 put in tier 10. Now yeah, if you're a tier 8 put in a tier 6 match, you could definitely do a lot of damage. But if you're a tier 8 and put in tier 10, good luck with that. No, these CVs are not overpowered. They are so underpowered right now that me, Kalorn, and Arun, who is pretty much a CV expert, he was a very good CV player in the prior iteration, were questioning whether the CV airplanes needed a buff. Now, hear me out, because again, there's a lot of different things going on with this playtest, and we're not seeing a full picture here. Take this for example. When you line up and run your torpedo bombers, how much damage are you doing per torpedo? What, 3,000, 4,000 damage? And how many torpedoes you're dropping? 3, 4? And you'll be lucky if all of those hit. So in one torpedo run, you're doing maybe tops 8, 9, 10,000 damage? Oh my gosh, that's horribly overpowered right there. And how many of those torpedoes are actually going to start a flood? Maybe one, if you're lucky. If you're lucky. Torpedo bombers are not the devastating Devastrike things that they used to be. You can't just go out there with a wave of torpedo bombers in a midway and delete a Montana or a Yamato. You just can't do that anymore. It takes several passes. It's not gonna happen. It's just not. But that's beside the point. Because the biggest reason we're not getting the full picture right now, and the biggest reason why CVs are not overpowered, how many of you out there that are saying these are overpowered actually played in a round with all human beings? How many of you actually got into a round where there weren't just more than like 9 bots on the enemy team? No, I guarantee you very few, if any of you did. Probably none of you. Every single round you probably played had 2 human CVs per team, sometimes 3, maybe a destroyer, or maybe a battleship, and that's it. Everything else was a bot. What do bots do? Bots just go out there, they sail straight for the most part, and they offer themselves up for you to just go ahead and conduct your torpedo runs with very little to worry about. They're all stock. They have stock hulls. They don't use their defensive fire, or they might. I don't know. I really don't know how intelligent these bots are. But I suspect they're not going to use it the way that a real player is going to use it. So again, we're not getting a full picture right here. If you played CVs and you feel that your play in them was overpowered, congratulations. You just beat up on a ton of bots. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. And that's why I think Wargaming is really wanting to release this, because they can't make changes until actual physical human beings start playing these carriers. They can't make significant changes until they see it in a real-world situation. So things might be a little off-kilter at first. They might be a little bit unbalanced, but I don't think it's going to be unbalanced in the direction of CVs being overpowered. It's more likely to be unbalanced in that anti-aircraft is really going to decimate enemy aircraft carrier squadrons. It's going to be miserable for you if you're in a tier 8 and you go up in a tier 9 or tier 10 situation with that level of anti-aircraft guns firing at you. So no, CVs are not overpowered. Not even close to being overpowered. If anything, right now the way things currently are, you got to work really hard to do a ton of damage. I'm not saying you can't, but you've got to work hard at it. And you gotta work against something other than bots, which I think we're gonna feel very, very soon. We're gonna get that taste of going up against real players and not just a team full of bots. So no, CVs are not overpowered, and because of this, because of the way CVs are right now, the other big fear-mongering thing that has been out there, players are gonna quit. Yeah, players are just gonna up and quit because these CVs are so overpowered, or they're gonna change the game so much and it's gonna be a horrible thing. No, players are not going to quit. The people saying this have been saying this for years. It's almost like they want to see the game fail. Either they've stopped playing and they just every now and then decide to get their name out there or just get their opinion out there by saying the game's going to fail because they want to see it fail. But players that like this game don't say it's going to fail. They don't want to see it fail, and it's not going to fail on account of carriers. It's just not. These carriers are not game-breaking. I mean, this is a major, major change, don't get me wrong, but it's not a major change that's going to affect the entire meta of the game. So you have aircraft carriers back in the game. Yeah, you're going to have one squadron, possibly two, in the air attacking you at a time. Big deal. It's not like you've got 5 squadrons in the air. It's not like you've got 2 sets of torpedo bombers and 2 sets of dive bombers out there. And you got to worry about that in your destroyer or your ship. Yeah, if you're in a destroyer, you might get perma-spotted by a carrier, but guess what? They're not really going to do anything to you. It's hard to hit destroyers now. With rockets, it's hard to hit them. If a player halfway knows how to maneuver, it's hard to hit them. And if you're in a destroyer and you get within 7 kilometers of an aircraft carrier, it's lights out for the aircraft carrier. There is very little they can do to stop a destroyer. I know because I tested this with the Rune. We went one-on-one, carrier versus destroyer. And once that destroyer gets in the carrier's wheelhouse, one squadron in the air ain't gonna do jack. So no, again, players aren't gonna quit because of these CVs. Maybe some CV players will quit just because it's not what they want, and they're upset because the old style's gone. But I highly doubt it's gonna make a dent whatsoever in the overall population of the game, which other people say is dead right now. Yeah, there's people out there saying World of Warships is dead. And that's another head scratcher right there. Because as far as I can tell, the overall population and amount of players that are playing is pretty much the same it's been for the past 3 years. 3.5 years since it went gold. Since we had the official launch party that happened at the first TwitchCon. And let's not forget about over a year of testing before that, when the game was in quote-unquote closed beta. So no, the game's not dead right now. Who thinks the game's dead? In fact, this game surprises me for something that's been out as long as it has. Over 4 years, including testing, and they're still making major changes, something like an aircraft carrier rework? That shows an extreme amount of investment by a company to make a change this radical and this large, this late in a game cycle. This shows commitment right here, if anything. I think for the most part, players are seeing this, and players are staying. Players are still playing, and numbers, at least in the past year, slightly ticked upwards. They definitely didn't go the opposite direction. So, the game is not dead. You know, guys, every time we have something new come out, every time something big and earth-shaking comes out, the sky is always falling. It's Chicken Little. It happened with the radar. It happened with RPF. It's happening again with CVs. It's happening with radar changes that are upcoming. Everybody says the new big thing to come out is going to kill the game. It's the end of the game as we know it. People are going to quit. People are going to leave. It's OP, whatever. I mean, doesn't this get old? Because every time it happens, It's proven that it is not the case. It's not the end of the game. It's not the giant game changer that players think it is. And you know why? Players adapt. Players overcome. They do what they do in any game. They learn counters for it. It makes them better in the process. And they drive on. So I'm sorry, I just kind of had to get this off my chest, because a lot of people are jumping to conclusions right now about this CV rework. They're not willing to give it a chance. It seems like they want it to fail, which to me is a ridiculous stance to have if you care about a game. Now, if you don't play it that often and you only play it just because you hate it and you want to make life miserable for everyone else, yeah, I totally get that. Players are going to do that. They're going to troll. But for the 99.9% of players out there that enjoy the game, I don't think they want the game to fail. I don't think they want CVs to fail. And I think they're willing to give them a try. Everybody should be willing to give these carriers a try. And if they're your thing, play them. And if you don't get any enjoyment out of it, don't play them. And what will happen is what we see now. Wargaming will have invested a lot of time in a rework that very few people are going to play. And the game goes back to the way it was. You'll have a carrier in maybe 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10 rounds, and they're barely going to make an impact. Nothing changes, life goes on, the game goes on. So there you have it. Sorry about this little rant, but I just want you to be open-minded with this rework. And I really, truly want it to be successful, and I think it can, but it's going to take time, and we got to be a part of that, and we got to be constructive. We have to provide constructive criticism, and that's what it boils down to. Anyhow, guys, I'm out.
Maintaining present course.